Welcome to the OG Rivals Podcast, episode number 20 here. We got a good one, I think. We certainly have some reactions we need to get from last week, but we've also got some breaking news this morning as of just moments before we jumped into record. So we're going to get to – Miguel doesn't even know what it is. We're going to get to jump into this real quick. And Sir Miguel Prado is back, although this week we might need to be calling him Chevy Chase
Griswold,
because he is playing the Griswolds this week, and he'll get into some of that and be able to probably share a few stories with us, I hope. But definitely glad you can make some time to get into this thing because we got some fun stuff to get into. Sir, welcome.
Thank you, sir. And this is the Christmas edition episode. We
Christmas
are here
edition.
on
That's why
12/23. Look at that. And you know what? I am lacking. And this isn't even self-awareness, Miles, that I have that I'm lacking. This is real world feedback. Again, from some of our listeners that reached out to me and they said, you know what? Miles has the Christmas lights, the Christmas hat, lights on the hat, the Christmas sweater. And then I look over at Miguel and Miguel has absolutely nothing. But so keep in mind, I do have a salt lamp back there, but just not a whole lot of Christmas decorations in this specific office.
I had to get festive, appreciate the people for noticing. I'm glad.
This
glad
is the People's Podcast. This is the People's Podcast. And Miles, I just want the people to know that are listening here today, there is live news. We're going to get live reaction because I have not checked Twitter. I have not checked Google. I am not searching for anything. So we're going to get a live reaction. And I think you're keeping me on ice, but
wouldn't even let Miguel open the show sheet. So he hasn't even seen the notes for the show sheet yet. He hasn't seen anything.
Yeah. And also, Miles, this is a morning edition. A lot of exciting stuff here.
Early morning. Yeah, I'm drinking lukewarm coffee because that represents my ambitions for this year's playoffs. They are lukewarm.
Yeah. Wow.
Tastes as good as it sounds. Kind of sucks.
Nobody likes lukewarm
coffee.
Miles.
Nobody likes lukewarm playoff aspirations. So that's where those are. But they're not dead. My cup's not empty. Well, so, there is that.
Let me join you on this train, Miles, because I have an ice cold coffee here. And this represents the Bears' playoff chances this year. They're ice cold. They're not. They've
pulled that off really well.
They've been eliminated since before the bye week. They were eliminated from playoff contention.
Awesome.
So I'll join you here, and I'll take a sip of this ice cold coffee here this morning.
I did not realize you actually had a cold beverage right there. That was beautiful.
You got some hand warmers.
Man. Cheers to that. Oh, man.
Cheers.
Yeah, and actually, it is cold here, right? So here, in Fort Worth, Texas, we had that crazy front come through that everybody's been talking about throughout the week, and my goodness, it went from, I woke up yesterday morning at 39 degrees. We knew it was coming, but it was, still pretty reasonable, definitely not freezing. Within an hour of being awake, I was outside to try to get all the animals ready. Their water all was already frozen.
Whoa.
So we went from from above freezing to water jugs frozen within an hour. It was wild.
Well,
and still freezing. It is uncomfortably cold outside. This is what I ran away from when I left Chicago.
We do need to know our audience, right? And we need to know our demographic. And a majority of them are either in Green Bay or in Chicago. So I don't want them to laugh us off the internet here. Miles was cold at 39 degrees. It is a chilling 1 degree today in Chicago with a wind chill of with it feels like negative 32 below zero, Miles. So almost a complete swing of what you were feeling yesterday. And I was reminded.
Yeah.
I was reminded when I said it was chilly yesterday, some family from Chicago talking about the family vacation, the Christmas vacation, Clark Griswold edition, had some family roll in from Chicago. And the moment I said that it was chilly, it was like 54 degrees. They looked at me like I was insane. So we have to remember our key demographic is out there bearing the cold today. So cheers to you.
And cheers to them.
Yeah. I also have a hot coffee.
And hey,
Miles.
let me be clear. It is the wind chills this morning were in the negatives, probably about negative 10 or so. Actual temperatures woke up to about 8 or 9. So it's pretty reasonably cold here, especially for Texas. Now, most Texans at this point were here, and some of us weren't, in 2021 in February when we had 10 days below freezing. We had the crazy blizzard that almost knocked us off the grid, all this crazy stuff. Our power was out for a few days. That was absolutely miserable, and we certainly got negative at the peak of that storm too. So, we've been a little bit tested now. There was a period there before that we went 5 years without seeing frozen precipitation. All right, now that's spoiled.
Yeah.
That's not something that our audience wants to hear about.
No, they don't want to hear about it. And I will
turn it off
say,
real quick.
I will say, I obviously am broadcasting from Southern California. I grew up in Chicagoland, and I did actually, when you and I connected in Texas, lived in Texas for a few years, I saw snow 2 years in a row in Louisville,
Yep.
right there near Dallas,
Yep.
in the Metroplex. So it started to feel like those polar vortexes made their way south there towards 2020. But still out here in Southern California, I'm about an hour away from a mountain, Miles. So if I need snow, I can go get it.
See, that's the way to do snow. It's like just have that like on-demand access, like it a little bit. All right, I'm done. Gonna go back to my nice weather now.
Yeah.
But hey, I guess everybody, needs to know how to feel better today, because whether you're hot, cold, it's a stressful time of year. It's also a wonderful time of year. We do get to enjoy a lot of pleasant things, but we have to work pretty hard for them. So we want to help y'all feel better today. Life Leaf Remedies is the one who is bringing you this episode, and we have a special passion for natural remedies and helping y'all feel better today with natural remedies. We're working with natural vitamins that you are familiar with and know and love, working with cannabinoids like CBD and many, many others that have great therapeutic properties, and we are bringing them together to create especially effective natural remedies for you and your loved ones if that is something that you are concerned with. The natural remedies part, I'm certainly assuming you're concerned with your loved ones. So check us out at lifeleafremedies.com today, y'all. You can subscribe and save yourself the shipping. We're going to give you free shipping. We're going to give you 10% off your order when you subscribe to any of our products. So do that, and you are in control of that. Cancel anytime. Totally take advantage of the free shipping if you have to. We know you're going to love the products and want to come back because they're going to help you feel better today. And sir, if they can, have any interest in helping us feel better today, what would we have them do?
Yeah, they need to go ahead and spike that like button, leave us a comment, and subscribe so that you can talk about us at your next tailgate. And that next tailgate at Soldier Field will be below freezing. So make sure you go ahead and get those, all of those natural remedies from Life Leaf Remedies. And I'll tell you what, Miles, I think that's a good stocking stuffer too. And I actually have a request, so I will be logging on to lifeleafremedies.com here after this episode and making sure that my order is in for that specific little treat you got there.
Look at this. It fits. It's a very, very stocking friendly size, and these things are delicious. Like if you're going to go put candy in somebody's stocking, you might as well put delicious, awesome sleep in their stocking. Like, you can have a delicious treat, or you can have a delicious treat plus amazing sleep. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. And also, if you have a house full of family and you just want to take a nap, you could pop one of those gummies too and get some relaxation. But yeah, that's very exciting. Like I said, I will be logging on to the website here after the show, Miles. But we have some cold temps and some football to talk about.
Breaking news. All right. We've held it on long enough. I hate doing the radio thing, but that's what YouTube suggests we do to keep y'all's attention. So we're doing it, and that's the only time we're going to do it. And then we're just going to go back to talking about what this breaking news is, however fans need to do so. So here we go. The breaking news that we have this morning is, well, it's part of Ryan Poles' strategy that we have discussed, and it is no longer available for him. Elton Jenkins and the Packers reach a 4-year extension.
Extinction. That's not a good sign.
Certainly not an extinction. Jeez, man, that was a terrible sign.
Yeah. Well, that is breaking news, Miles, and this is breaking in the sense that it is brand new news to me. Keep in mind on this podcast, I had commented that is a potential target in the offseason for the Chicago Bears. So that is monster breaking news,
No
Miles.
longer.
It's so shocking that your hat turned on.
I mean, why wouldn't it, right? Like it knows when the future is bright, and then it's like, hey,
There
guys,
you go.
right here, bright future. Here it is.
Yeah.
No, and I wanted to shout something out there. As much as we talk about this is a fan podcast, we're not experts. What was my first response to you whenever you said that Ryan Poles would be going after Elton Jenkins?
You say he's going to get locked up in Green Bay, that he wouldn't even hit the market.
Wasn't even going to hit the market.
Yeah, you're like a broken clock, Miles. You're right at least twice a day. 2 times a day.
Hey, which is better than some of these other clowns out there, man. They're never right. Like
yeah.
they're like dodging bullets.
So let's get the fan perspective. What does this mean for the franchise? What does this mean for that offensive line? And who's going to be under center moving forward? Let's hear that.
Well, I mean, I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of Packer fans surprised by this. One, we talked about it. This is how they work, right? Like when there's a guy like this that they have and they know, one, his future's bright. Two, it's a position of need all the time, as we've seen. Unless there's just something broken between the relationship, you lock the guy up. And certainly there's been broken relationships between front office and player in the past. But now actions speak louder than words. They locked the guy up. They care. He cares. They want to continue forward. And I think that if anything, his injuries that he's been battling have probably changed the situation a little bit. If he's perfectly healthy through this point, he's in my opinion probably commanding more than what he got. This makes him the second highest paid guard in the league now. Excuse me. But I think that that's great for him because it's a 4-year extension. He's still going to be in his prime when that contract is up. He'll have the opportunity to cash in big, assuming he continues on this trajectory and stays healthy. So I think, good for both sides. And, again, what does this mean for the future? I think it just continues what Goot has been building. I think he has shown an interest in keeping the line replenished. He's used those middle round kind of higher draft picks in every draft on at least one lineman. They haven't all panned out, but he's shown that interest in keeping fresh talent in there. And when you've got a guy that is one of the best in the league, which they do, you'd be foolish to let him go. I mean, that is exactly what you're looking for in the draft. So if you found exactly what you're looking for, why wouldn't you bring him in for the second contract? It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Some teams do it, I guess, but they're not very good, it doesn't seem like.
Yeah.
So I think, bright future. Does this change anything about the quarterback situation? I don't think so. If anything, maybe it says that Jenkins is comfortable with whoever's throwing the ball. Or maybe he's got some insight to who's next. You never know what's going on in those meetings where, they're trying to convince him to sign this extension, and here's how you're part of the future, and here's what those next 4 years look like. I mean, Aaron Rodgers' contract doesn't go for 4 more years, so somebody's part of that solution. So I don't know that there's a whole lot to take from that about the quarterback situation. Some people might try. I don't think you need to. I think that's going to play itself out. But we all know this organization's pretty conservative when it comes to, how they maneuver. They're not going to go off and tell you that they're moving on from Aaron Rodgers in the middle of the season. They're not going to go off and fire coordinators in the middle of the season, even though we want them to in some cases. I mean, it's as bad as the special teams coordinator was last season, like historically bad. They waited until the very bitter end to make a change, and it ended up costing them. Not that we need to dig that up, but point is, I don't think you're going to get to know anything until the very end of this season about what even next year looks like, except that Elton Jenkins is part of it.
Yeah, well, hopefully Elton Jenkins knows all of the Aaron Rodgers hand signals so that he can be a good bridge for the receiving core moving forward. But I'll say this, and I had to get that shot in there. But
That was a good one. That we
free
got that coming up.
free agency has a caveat, Miles, and I think you touched on it, right? Is, these types of players, good players, very rarely hit the open market, right? Like, and that's why I say there's that caveat to almost fool's gold, right? With free agency, and so I grew up where the Washington Commanders, formerly known as the Washington Redskins, back in the day, they were notorious for being the biggest spenders in free agency, right? I mean, you remember this, and it was the punchline because year in and year out, they
And the
were
biggest
awful,
losers in the regular season.
awful,
Yeah.
awful in regular season. And um, first and foremost, congratulations to that young man on securing the bag and securing that contract. Right, I think it does go to show good franchises operate in that manner. Right, you draft well and then you lock down those guys after their rookie deals, um, and it is one more potential target, right, for that Ryan Poles strategy and agenda in the offseason, which will be interesting to keep an eye on. But again, whoever's under center there in Green Bay, I think that continues to be the polarizing topic. And it seems like this is now Groundhog Day, Miles, where it's just every offseason we're having the same conversation. And this is going back for years now. But good for that young man. He's probably going to
That's what I said
feel,
on the last episode, man.
yeah, he's going to stick his chest
2008
out a
all
little
over
bit,
again.
keep his chin up a little bit this week. I'm sure he's got a little bit extra swag. He might need to buy his guys nice little dinner or something with that extra chunk of change. But good for him, man. Congrats.
Yeah, always happy for the players when they can cash in, and he seems like a really, good character guy, doesn't really, you're not hearing a whole lot from him. He doesn't really, demand a whole lot, as far as it never really seemed like he was like, I've got to be paid this or, whatever it is. But he does seem to have just solid confidence about himself as a player and what he brings to the table, and that's what you want in a guy that you're going to invest in. You want someone who is
Absolutely.
essentially just he's building himself into the best player that he can, and
Yeah.
I think they saw that early on from Jenkins. I don't think that there was a whole lot of question that this was going to happen. Because really up until this year when he started battling injuries, there really wasn't a question that he was one of the best, not even guards, but just interior offensive linemen in the league. And he also showed an ability to flex out to tackle. Not as great at right tackle. He showed some good talent at left tackle, but ultimately that he can be one of the best interior linemen in the league. And if you've got that, again, unless there's a fracture in the relationship, there's no reason you let that guy go. There's just That's not good team building. So yeah, very happy to see that as a fan. That's one that you expected. But if the longer it goes without happening, the more you're like, is this going to happen? He's not going to hit the market, is he? Because. And here we are. Let's get into it. The market is going to be kind of wild. You've got a lot of teams, or I guess a wide range of who's got what. You get teams like the Bears. You guys are going to come out with a really, really, heavy cap leverage, and you'll be able to just completely outspend other teams. So where, the Packers are not going to have a whole lot of leverage with their cap in the offseason. Like if you can get guys locked up now before other teams get involved with unrealistic money, that's what you got to do. That's the responsible thing to do if you can. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure Poles was licking his chops, man, and I'm glad that this is not one that's on the table for him, because I know the Packers would not have won that arm wrestling match.
Yeah, and one thing to consider too, which I read this, and I mean, take it with a grain of salt. We don't know if it's completely accurate, but something along the lines of 50% of first round draft picks. I hate to throw the word bust around, but I do not live up to their draft position.
Yeah.
And so when you have that individual in your building, and like you said, the relationship is good. That's a very smart move. Very smart.
Yeah, absolutely. So very happy to see that as a fan. all the way around, I think it's an exciting situation for the future of the Packers. You've got several young guys locked up now for the next 4 to 5 years. Put Jair Alexander on that list. You've got Jenkins on that list now. You've certainly got some stud rookie receivers that are on that list.
Yeah.
Thinking about 9 and 87 on the field at the same time for the next 4 seasons is pretty fun. I like thinking about that a lot, especially when you consider what, even with a couple draft picks here and there, what they could add to that, whether it be a tight end, more running backs, more different types of receivers. There's a lot that can be added when you've got when you hit on 2 guys at the same position in any draft. I think that's a huge thing as far as what you're able to do then in the future by not needing to allocate as many resources to that position as far as development goes.
Well, Miles, I think it's very
excited
clear.
about all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very clear to our listeners that you and I can go on forever about offseason moves and how to build a franchise and the best way to build a championship, a champion. But we had a game last week, right? We had some Monday night action. We had some primetime action for you. And we had the MVP, the league leading candidate for MVP roll into Chicago and the number 1 defense in the NFL.
Yeah, and you and I were wrong, about how that game would play out.
Yeah.
What happened?
We were wrong.
I couldn't watch it. I was watching the Cowboys game here, but what happened?
If you're going to be wrong, Miles, don't you want it to be when your team overperforms or your team definitely just outperforms the expectations that were laid out? And so you and I, obviously on this podcast, I said, hey, this potential Jalen Hurts comes in here with those weapons, right? The Miles Sanders, the AJ Brown, the Sean Jackson. Let's not, again, MVP leading candidate Jalen Hurts comes into town. 50 points isn't out of the question there, considering how porous that Chicago defense has been, how inefficient that front seven has been in generating pressure, quarterback hits, sacks, etc. Your team's leading sack, your team's sack leader is your safety. I mean, that's backwards, right? And sure enough, defense comes in and gets 3 takeaways up against the MVP candidate in Hurts. And then again, that number 1 defense, that ferocious front seven that the Eagles have with Ndamukong Suh in there and obviously their front seven. Justin Fields has the best game as a passer in his career. He came into that game, had a 66.7% completion rate, threw for 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, put a goose egg in the interception column, and had a passer rating of 119.5 against that Eagles defense. And again, obviously being objective, right? The first critique that's going to come his way is the win column, right? I think we're seeing here in the way this season is shaping out. Pump the brakes, right? It's a development season for Justin Fields. You can call him a running back if you want.
Look, I mean, the win. Hold on. Let's keep it on this game though, like we've said, he has shown progression every week, in my opinion, and this week is no different. And if you're gonna say but the win column, you keeping the context on this game, this is a Super Bowl favorite. This is a team that's only lost 1 game all season. League MVP leading candidate. Most explosive offense in the league, if not tied for most of. They're up there as far as it goes. Toughest weapons to defend between Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, the rest of on the list. Jalen Hurts is a weapon in himself. Like, there's just so much to have to stop. So for this game to have been 25-20, like that, you can't. You're not seeking wins right now. You're out of it. We've already said your drink is ice cold, right? You're 3-10 at that point. Now you're 3-11. There's nothing to be gained from winning this except for like a fist pump.
Yeah.
But everything to be gained from seeing how this played out and learning from it. And I promise you, these guys right now are learning more from losses than from wins.
It's one of life's.
Well,
It's one of life's.
yeah,
You got to
that's
learn.
probably true.
You got to learn how to win. But I will say this is that losing is one of life's greatest teachers, right? Because
it is.
once you experience that, and again, these guys, their competitive makeup, I don't think the average person can understand how competitive these guys are. And
No.
with a little context here, these numbers again, this wasn't Justin Fields. This wasn't just Justin Fields' greatest performance as a passer. It comes against the number one defense in the league, and it's the best quarterback performance against the number one defense in the league all season long, right? And then you ask yourself, okay, Miguel, so he must have been doing this with Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool running around. No, both of them they're obviously on the IR, right? I think Claypool is nursing an injury. He's not on the IR, but he's day to day. And that leaves Equanimous St. Brown, Dante Pettis, and Webster off of the practice squad. So we joked about this last week, right? You got practice squad players out there. That practice squad player had 2 receptions, right? So he's throwing to practice squad players against the number one defense in the league, and there's still some guy in his mom's basement that's calling him a scrub. I don't if that's the perception, right? There's nothing that he can do that will ever change that. I mean, we're talking about Justin Fields can win an MVP. He can go on a deep playoff run. He could potentially one day win a Super Bowl, and someone's still going to say that he's not a quarterback, that he's not, a passer, and he's not a natural passer. This game is evolving, completely evolving to the point where you have your pocket passers, your Matt Ryans of the world, your Nick Foles of the world. These guys are sitting in that pocket, and they need an offense that can block and actually sustain a pocket. And then what do they need? They also need receivers that can create separation on their own, right? Margin of separation in the NFL is super small, right? They need to get open. Justin Fields is doing this with an offensive line that's a Frankenstein at this point because of injuries, and it wasn't good to begin with. Let's say that, right? It wasn't good to begin with starters. Now you have guys that are playing out of position. You have practice squad players lining up. You don't have Khalil Herbert. I could go on and on and on about trying to just communicate to a fan that isn't necessarily sold on Justin Fields. Like, we're watching something that is incredible with the type of shift that he brings into a game. At any given moment, he could be the fastest guy out on the field. Darius Slay, right? One of the best defenders in the NFL, comes out, praises Justin Fields all season long, opposing defenses in the locker room. So this isn't even going into the game, right? Where they don't want to say anything to get Justin fired up. This is after the game, after he sliced and diced them in the game. They're coming out and saying, dude, this guy's special, right? Defensive coordinators, head coaches are coming out and saying, hey man, this guy's special. Right. And I don't want to get long winded here, Miles, but in that 2021 draft, right, you think about that draft class of quarterbacks, it was exciting, right? It was the Matt Jones, Zach Wilson. It was Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, all these guys coming out. Zach Wilson is getting booed out of MetLife or out of the Jets stadium at halftime.
That's wild, man.
Gets benched.
Yeah.
At halftime. Like I can't believe
wild.
And he, to put some context here, Zach Wilson was the number 2 draft pick in the 2021 NFL draft. Justin Fields was the 11th draft pick in the 2021 NFL draft. And if you don't think that there's buyer remorse out there, Miles, just Google search Justin Fields photo edits, and you could see him in a Panthers jersey. You could see him in a Jets jersey. You could see him in a Patriots jersey. And I hate to say this, there's some Packer edits that are going around.
The Panthers one looked really cool.
It does.
I saw that. I was like, no, guys, no.
All we're saying here, for the sake of this podcast and this argument here, is I think that history will not look fondly on the Justin Fields haters in a few years, is all I'm saying.
Well, and I just, I would I would like it if some of them could be consistent with their criticisms. And except what Twitter has created is these like like outrage, lines in the sand. You know what I mean? Like Justin Fields is a bum. Period. Like there was another one about one of the Packers players. Quay Walker. Somebody earlier. It was like week 4, and I went back to it because somebody else had gone back to it and brought my attention to it. But week 4, somebody's chirping about I'll never understand what somebody saw in Quay Walker, what the Packers saw in Quay Walker, while Devin Lloyd was looking really good. Well, now Devin Lloyd's on the bench, and Quay Walker is the leading tackler for the Packers. He's had ups and downs, but he's had some flashes of absolute brilliance, which we've talked about between him and Justin Fields, right? Like, I put Quay Walker as the reason why the Packers won that first matchup against the Bears. In the past, Justin Fields scores a touchdown there. No questions about it. The Packers have not had that athlete at linebacker that can run toe-to-toe with Justin Fields and tackle him on the goal line. So, when this clown is out there in week 4 of this kid's rookie season saying, I will never understand, it's like, you're not even giving yourself enough time to have a take here. Like, you need way more to make that take. You need more information to make that take. Like, I will never get out of here, man. Give the kid an off season, for crying out loud. But it's just that's the world that we live in with these takes. So everybody's got to be outrageous about their Justin Fields take. I'll never, or he'll never. He's a bum. He's this. He's that. No, what he is he's in the first year of a new offense. He's in the second year of his NFL career. He's surrounded by nobody. Everybody wants to give Aaron Rodgers every excuse in the book for not having a supporting cast. Justin Fields doesn't have the Packers practice squad. The Packers practice squad probably looks better on paper than Justin Fields' supporting cast right now, minus Claypool. Right, like as it stands in this last game, the people that they walked into that stadium against the Eagles with, like, the fact that anybody can criticize Justin Fields as a passer with the surrounding cast that he has and the standards that we claim to have for these other quarterbacks and the support that they should have, like it blows my mind that anybody can have that take about Justin Fields. It's like, wait, he's doing all right with nobody.
He's doing all right.
He almost beat the best team in the NFC, almost beat the leading candidate for MVP. With nobody.
And
the best
critique
player outside of Justin Fields on that offense is your Pro Bowl guard. Yeah, that's it. It's those two.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Miles, is that's why I think the future, I think we've said it before, is exciting. But I do want to give credit to Trevor Lawrence. Right. And I always like to be objective. I always like to be reasonable. Right. Obviously, I'm a homer, so I'm a bear down, bear forever type guy. But Trevor Lawrence, I mean, we've talked about him on this podcast coming out of school and the type of quarterback that he could be in the NFL. I think we're starting to see that, and we'll also tip my cap to Doug Peterson. Right, because he is obviously a key difference in Trevor Lawrence from last year under Urban, who was it was Urban Myers, right?
Yeah, Urban Meyer.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about the
complete train wreck.
Yeah, about that, but so Trevor Lawrence, and I think if anything, what we're going to see, and you know this, Miles, the cream always rises, right? The cream always rises to the top, separates itself from the rest, and so I think what we're seeing here is Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence as being the true top talent of that draft class, and it's exciting because the 2023 quarterback class is looking exciting as well in the draft. And I think this NFL is in good hands as we start seeing the sunset of Tom Brady, the sunset of the Aaron Rodgers, the Matt Ryans, not that they're in the same class, but just that era of quarterback is moving on.
Yeah, it always happens. We watched it happen with those kind of rugged '90s quarterbacks. Watching Elway go, then watching Favre go. It's interesting how eras of the NFL are kind of held on to by the quarterbacks and the kickers mostly. You see the running backs fall out first, the linebackers, some of them hang out for a while, but maybe some offensive linemen make it a while. There's a few cases of that, but yeah, it is a different era of football for sure. And it's definitely in good hands though. When you look at Pat Mahomes, you look at Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all of these guys who now have had moments of elite, top quarterback play, winning MVPs, winning Super Bowls. There's great quarterback play in this league. It's really fun to watch, and I think that that's still going to continue to be the case. But we can't expect that it's always going to be the same suspects, right? Like,
right.
The Patriots aren't going to be the ones that draft Tom Brady every time.
Yeah.
So we've got to watch for where these different folks come out of.
Yeah.
And then in some cases we've been kind of cut short on a certain generation, like Andrew Luck. He was supposed to be a once in a generation talent, kind of looked like he was going that way, and then boom, he's gone. So you got to wonder what it would have been like for his career to play out. So
there's a
lot
great
of things, man, but I'm excited about this future.
Yeah, there's a great piece on Andrew Luck, and I think for him, I don't want to say I think it was the right decision, right? Just like putting it out there because of where he was mentally and physically.
Yeah.
But I will say this, Miles, before we
can't criticize him for it.
No,
for
you
sure.
can't. And I will never obviously criticize a grown man's life decision. Like he's a grown man. I will say this, Miles, is something to keep an eye on here as we transition into the off season. Is we have had examples in the last couple years of maybe not the greatest wide receiver free agency class, and we've seen some really shocking moves, right? So think of Tyreek Hill, think AJ Brown, think Devontae Adams. All of these were not free agent acquisitions. These were all trades. I just want to put a scenario out there on this podcast so that fans are aware of right trends in the NFL, because the NFL is a pattern trend type of business. It's a copycat league, right? And it's one of those because it's so hyper competitive that you see a formula that works, right? You go ahead and you run that same play, same formula. So here's one example of what can be an option for the Bears. So if the season ended today, they're back in that number 2 spot. With Will Levi, with CJ Stroud, with I'm forgetting the Ohio State or the Alabama kid, Bryce Young.
Yeah.
With those three, commanding the type of draft stock climbing that they have right now for these quarterback needy teams, the Bears can be a beneficiary of trading down from that number 2 pick and still be in the top 5 theoretically, right? If one of those quarterback needy teams are just on the outside looking in, those hauls, Miles, and this, those hauls for those premium first round picks usually yield, like franchise changing packages, right? Like look at the Miami Dolphins, what they were able to do with trading 1 first round pick, and they got 2 years worth of first rounders. They got third rounders. They got fourth rounders. All I'm saying is if the Bears have that second round pick and they can trade back from there, which I fully, again, anticipate them doing so with Justin Fields being under center, right? They don't need one of those top quarterbacks coming out of college. What if they go and they get him a T. Higgins of the world, right? Like these are guys that aren't free agents, but that they could potentially be trading chips for Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham. It's just something to keep in mind, and just with what the league has done in the last couple years, right? With young quarterbacks, when a franchise says, "Hey, this is the guy."
Let me build onto that.
Yeah, go for it.
Let me build onto that to take exactly what you just said And as far as what the league has done over the last few years, there's another element that I would say watch for. And I'd have to go back and look and see who Fields played with at Ohio State, but I would look for them to find somebody he played with at Ohio State. Just the same way that the Dolphins did with Tua. Who's the other example? Somebody else.
So that's Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. That's Joe
Burrow
T.
and
Higgins.
Chase, Jamar Chase.
Chase, yeah. Sorry, it's not T. Higgins. It's Jamar Chase. It's
T. Higgins was Clemson.
And so Miles, so that would be like a Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State or NJB out of Ohio State. So those are those some of the guys you're thinking
But even
of?
somebody in the league now. If there's somebody in the league now, they've got a few others, don't they, that played with him?
I don't want to misspeak, but is it Michael Pittman Jr.? I mean, who?
That's why I said I'd have to go back and look and see who he played with. But there might be some guys out there right now that are, that they were high draft picks that he played with, and they're sitting at a receiver 2 or receiver 3 position that
Chris Olave,
kind of like what you're saying with T. Higgins. He's there, yeah. Chris Olave's one. There's not a whole lot going on down there.
That could be an option because New Orleans. You could say, Miles, I mean, I'm not an NFC South fan.
Quarterback.
They need a quarterback, right? So they may say, hey, we need ammo to move up here. Let's go ahead and put Olave on the trading block. Because, again, you can't build a house without a foundation, right? So if you have a wide receiver but nobody that can throw him the ball, you're kind of backwards there. But that's a great observation, Miles. But that's Chris Olave. And then Wilson, I'm not sure who Wilson.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson. He's out there with the Jets. If that's imploding, man, that might be one to watch too.
So, wow. So, we obviously geek out and get nerd. This is where we get nerdy here. But, wow, Miles, that's a great observation and something to keep an eye on. And I'll tell you what, if that ends up happening, it's here, episode 20, holiday edition. On the OG Rivals podcast, we got receipts. That's a Miles prediction.
You heard it first.
Yeah, I like it, Miles. That's why we do this.
The other one, I knew there was another example of this. The other example of the quarterback receiver teammates from college is, and again, league trends, is Hurts and Devonta Smith.
Yeah,
they played together at Alabama,
and
so
Howie,
I think that's an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great observation because keep in mind that without that move by Howie to go and get the Devonta Smith, right? Which at that point the Giants were potentially going to take him, right? That is one of the catalysts to the Justin Fields trade. Because they were both in that 10. I think the Giants were in that 10 spot, and I think the Eagles jumped up to 10, took Devonta Smith, or something like that, where the Giants were like, okay, if that scenario happens and our guy's not there, then we'll trade out of that spot. So they traded out of that spot to Chicago. Oh, the Eagles came up to 10. The Giants were at 11. The Eagles jumped. They frog leaped the Giants to get Devonta to pair him with his college quarterback, right? Who they said, okay, this guy might be the future. That left. So this scenario we're talking about is very literally why the Bears even had a chance to go and get Justin at 11, which I still can't wrap my mind around, Miles, that Justin Fields was sitting there at 11. Somewhere in a vault, I have a
How about Pat Mahomes at 15?
Oh my God. How about Brock Purdy at Mr. Irrelevant? Guy's like 6-0 or something like that.
The Niners got something there.
Yeah, no kidding.
He's going to net the Niners a nice draft pick one day.
Yeah, I think that.
I think that we've talked about it, dude. We've talked about trends and how teams pick up on trends. Like, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Ryan Poles is paying attention to how some of that stuff played out. You've got some very talented teammates that Fields played with in college at Ohio State. So that formula could very well apply the way that these other teams have applied it for these Alabama players. I really would watch for that, both draft and trade situation wise.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't want to get us too far down the offseason because we're not in the offseason.
We're down
yet,
that
man.
rabbit
I know
hole.
that
Well, we're both.
It's
well,
tempting because you're basically in the offseason.
I'm in the off season, Miles, but you're not. You have a lukewarm. You need a lot of help, huh? You need.
I have a lukewarm cup of coffee here.
Yeah. Who's in that bottom spot right now? Because you're in the hunt, right?
We're fighting for that bottom spot. I think that's our best case scenario. Let's see here. Let's see Packers playoff scenario. I know I saw this before. Let's see here. 2022. Here we go. And it was actually not all that far-fetched. Whenever I looked at it, I was like, huh, okay, so this actually might happen. The kicker, and I think the entire way now, the hardest part's going to be for the Packers to actually win out. I mean, you got to beat a pretty tough Dolphins team on Christmas.
Yeah, but
Miles,
now,
granted, they get to go to Miami, which is nice.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, it's Christmas Day, and we always say on this podcast, any given Sunday, yes, it's tough to beat that Miami team, but I mean that's why the NFL is the NFL, because any given Sunday, I mean, you see it happen all the time.
Absolutely. Can't count them out yet. The cup is lukewarm. But then the other situation was, you need to win out, but then I think you need the Commanders to lose 2 of 3 games.
Ooh.
And when I looked at it, I was like, actually kind of realistic.
They just lost.
Because one of those is against yeah, right. Let's see here. Packers make – okay, here we go.
Let's hear it.
Make the playoffs if the Commanders lose 2 of the 3, which they play the 49ers, the Browns, and the Cowboys. That's pretty reasonable to assume they could go 1-3 in there. Yeah, very, very doable. And then the Seahawks have to lose 1 of their remaining, which is against the Chiefs, the Jets, and the Rams. They may beat the Jets. I think the way the state of that franchise, but
little Baker action maybe.
You don't think they'll lose to the Rams?
I don't think they'll lose to the Rams.
Yeah, okay, they are better, but they will lose to the Chiefs. They only have to lose 1. I think they'll lose to the Chiefs. That's in Kansas City.
Seattle has mocked both LA teams with a tweet when they said, like SoFi is like their second home, and I think they're like they haven't lost a game at SoFi or something like that. So just something to keep an eye on. I'm sure the team wasn't too happy with the social media manager at that day, but yeah, I mean that Seahawks and Rams matchup. So you need them to lose 1 game. What else do you need?
That's it. Well, we got to win out. So Packers win out. The Commanders lose 2 of 3, which we said pretty doable against the 49ers, the Browns, and the Cowboys. Wow. And we need the Seahawks just to lose 1. And they've got at the Chiefs, and then they've got Jets at home and Rams at home. So this game isn't even at SoFi. Maybe they'll give one up at home for mocking the whole SoFi thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, the only caveat...
I don't see the Seahawks going into Arrowhead and getting a win.
The only caveat that I would say, and sometimes this is the curveball here at the end of the season, is that last week where if teams have clinched... Yes. And I know you and I have different perspectives here on, who to start, who to rest. But
of course,
we see a lot of NFL teams, if they have that clinched spot, then, that's when you'll see them roll out their backups and give them the whole game to play. So sometimes those last weeks can get a little wonky.
Well, it looks like if we're projecting a little bit, just in assuming that the Packers go 3-0 against the Dolphins, the Vikings, and the Lions, it's the Vikings at Lambeau, so it's a very winnable game in my opinion. The Lions at Lambeau, winnable. At the Dolphins, that's tough. I don't know. There's a lot here that still has to come together.
The Vikings are a hard out.
I think that again, when you look at the They are, and they're not gonna. It's not the last week of the season for them. So even if they are clinched and they have already won the North, we know
They
that
want to beat. They want to beat
they've
Green
got
Bay.
their first round bye and all that.
Yeah, no,
They're not gonna just
Bay.
hang that one out.
Yeah.
So the stretch for Green Bay is tough. I think that's actually the toughest part. It's not hard to see the Commanders losing to the Niners this week. They could very well lose to the Browns after that, and going up against the Cowboys in that final week. If they've already lost 2 of those games against the Browns and the Niners, I believe they're totally out of it at that point. But the Cowboys, I think, still have something to fight for. So, and those 2 are rivals too. So I don't know that you're going to get anybody mailing that one in. And then you go again, going through the Seahawks with what they have to do. You just need them to lose 1, and they have to go to Kansas City this week. I just don't see them winning that game. I think Kansas City's hot. Kansas City is not going to take their foot off the gas. And then they do get kind of an easy last 2 against the Jets at home and against the Rams at home, but we'll see. The Rams could well play spoiler. I wouldn't put that past Sean McVay. He seems like a guy who would really enjoy being a spoiler.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that could happen there. It's all pretty realistic. We're not making too big a stretch of anything except for the Packers going 3-0, which they don't look bad. I mean, maybe this is a good time to talk about the Rams game a little bit. We're almost an hour into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see. Let's get into some game time predictions here, Miles.
Yeah. So we hit on the Bears-Eagles game a little bit there. When we go back to the Packers and the Rams and how that game played out, you just kind of have to ask yourself, like, all right, well, are the Packers looking better, or are the Rams just kind of like, stick a fork in them there, done. They didn't have Aaron Donald, so there's that. They didn't, obviously Baker Mayfield is kind of coming off of his high that he was on. And so there's a lot of reasons. And, it was cold. It was at Lambeau. There's a lot of reasons why you didn't get the Rams' best effort in that one, and they're not a great team to begin with. So I don't want to get too excited about that win, except that, it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
You didn't make a whole lot of terrible mistakes. They were able to move the ball a little bit. You wanted to see them probably run it a little bit more effective. But they still, when you look at the whole package, Dillon with his 2 touchdowns, Aaron Jones was effective. Overall, 35 carries, 138 yards, and 2 touchdowns for a backfield. That's not bad.
No.
Aaron Rodgers didn't look bad. Compared to how he has.
No, I was going to say, that running game, I remember watching the game and just saying that the Packers were running the ball effectively. And I know you mentioned you wanted to see more of that because I know they did punch it in with Aaron Jones there on the goal line a couple times. But yeah, the way I would look at it is a win, getting a win in the NFL. Like you take those, right? So,
AJ Dillon.
What are your thoughts here going into a cold week? What are we going, 16, 15?
Yeah, week 16, and the Packers get a trip down to Miami, so they get a reprieve from the weather.
Awesome.
Now, it makes me nervous, it does, because one, that's a very good Miami team, and these guys need to be ready to run without cramping. So you're talking about changing your environment entirely, and then you're also talking about keeping guys focused when they go from winter hell to beautiful Miami. Don't think about the beach. Don't think about how nice it is, how relaxing it could be, how close you are to the off season. We talk about how fierce these guys are as far as competitors, but they're humans. They're all humans, and they there's one of 2 mentalities they're going down there with, and we've seen both of these, right? They're going down there with a business mentality, and they take care of business. We've seen that happen. We've also seen them go to places and get distracted and come out with a flop, especially out in California, which is a particularly distracting place compared to Wisconsin weather. So, I wouldn't put it past them to be totally distracted and just come out and flop. I don't want to see that happen. I don't know that that's what will happen, but it's definitely a possibility. But ultimately what was fun for me against, the Rams and on Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers looked like he was comfortable with his receivers. He looked like he was comfortable operating within the offense. We haven't seen a lot of that. We've seen flashes of it, but seeing Dobbs out there on the field with Watson, seeing Cobb make a few key first down catches like he's known for, I think the only real disappointing thing was Allen Lazard. He had a pretty quiet game, and there was the one throw that Aaron Rodgers just overthrew him, and it was ugly, and you're just kind of going, "Oh, why is this happening?" That's the footage I would show to these people who think that Aaron Rodgers needs better weapons. No, he's got a guy wide open, and he couldn't put the ball on him, guys. That's a very big problem, So ultimately, was it an A+ effort on the offense, the defense all around? No. I'd give the offense probably a B-. It was good. It wasn't great. You saw things you wanted to see. You saw a few things you didn't. Ultimately, I feel like they're moving in the right direction, though. I feel like there was positive momentum in the right direction as far as how guys were operating within the offense, how the offense was able to command the game, and you never really felt like they were out of control. Which is an all too familiar feeling this season. And then the defense really, I thought, looked good. I was really pretty happy with some of the stuff we saw on defense. You've got kind of a shifting happening in the secondary. You're seeing some guys step up. Rudy Ford had a little bit more, a quieter come down to earth game here. But Keyshawn, I'm going to have to figure this out. Nixon is looking really good. So there's a little bit of shifting happening. Adrian Amos, I thought, looked better in this game than he had recently. So hopefully these guys are getting into positions where they're a little bit more comfortable. Darnell Savage, I think, is starting to play a little bit better than he was previously, which, he's really coming off the ground. He was playing about as bad as you could. But yeah, so ultimately, I thought it was a good game. It was fun to watch. You saw it get pressure. Preston Smith with 2 sacks, Quay Walker with a sack, and I mean, talking about Quay Walker, this guy, you guys can get all nitpicky about. Well, he's had 4 really great games, and he's had 4 really terrible games. Like, he's a rookie. That's normal. That means he's learning. That means he had a really bad game, he figured something out, and then he had a great game. He might have had another bad game again, figured something out, and he corrected it. This guy, when we talked at the beginning of the season about you don't know much about guys except for the physical tools they've got. He applies his physical tools, and he seems like a very consistent and kind of mild-mannered guy. Like, he kind of plays with like this subtle anger, but he doesn't have a whole lot of ups and downs. He makes a mistake, he gets out of there. And he's made some mistakes, right? We've seen it. We saw the penalty on the sideline, pushing a guy. That was probably an example of one of his worst moments, but then he learns from that. Just watching the guy's demeanor, I'm really excited about him. I think the future is super bright for Quay Walker, and it's going to make battles against Justin Fields very interesting, in my opinion. I'm kind of excited for that.
Miles,
but overall,
people want a
win's a win
Miles.
in this league. It's good to get a win.
The people want your prediction. They want your prediction.
The prediction times.
Yeah. What's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Predicting the next game? Are we predicting the playoffs?
No, we're predicting the Miami game. What's going to happen?
The Miami
Miles?
game.
What's going to happen?
Well, man, it all hinges on how that team goes down there. I'm going to make a prediction based on what I think this team is capable of. Okay, I'm going to make this prediction based on what we have seen them do. What their talent is certainly capable of. There's talented individuals on both sides of this ball, and we've seen it. I think they go down there and they grit one out against Miami because this team knows that its back is against the wall and its season is on the line. This might as well be the playoffs already. You have to win out. I think they grit one out against Miami and they win 34-31.
Wow. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. The Packers' hopes and dreams are still alive with Miles's prediction. My prediction for that Miami game is going to be similar, but I'm going to flip it around. I think that Mike McDaniels
Ah,
and Tua just they drive a stake through the heart of that Packer fan base, and maybe get an early start there on the vacation in Miami for the off season. But that's my prediction. Anything can happen. I think it's going to be a tough. I think it's going to be a tough matchup. Obviously, with Miami being a bit of a surprise, is well, I don't know if a lot of people are surprised. They got a good coach and a good quarterback and a good team down there in Miami.
very talented.
I do think Miles. I agree with you here. This is a playoff game for Packer fans and the Packers, right? I mean, it's one of those, and you win and you're in, you lose and you're out type deal. And they have a bit of a hill to climb here in some scenarios that we went through. So my expectation is to see that team ready to play, right? I don't think that they come out distracted.
That's mine too.
Yeah. So I do think that getting a win in Miami is tough this year. So I think that's what happens this weekend. That's a Christmas Day game, Miles.
Yeah.
Wow,
Spotlight's on them.
beautiful, beautiful. So we'll be watching
Yeah.
here, watching that one, and then we have another playoff team playing an NFC North team this week, and that's the Bills coming into Soldier Field with a incredibly cold kickoff, projected to be below freezing.
10 degrees.
Yeah, it's gonna be cold. I will say this. So Olin Kreutz, he played obviously the center position for the Bears for many, many years, very familiar with the cold. He gave a bit of a life hack to some of the players, and he said, here's what you do. You take a, a bodysuit for surfing, right? And so keep in mind, he is from the island, so he's got some Hawaiian blood.
Yeah.
So he knows, the water gets cold out there. So you put that bodysuit on, keeps you warm. So he recommends players put a full bodysuit on underneath their uniform, and then keep hand warmers
Dang.
in their in their hand pocket. So you keep a couple hand warmers there, you activate those, and then that way you can keep your paws warm throughout the chilly day. Matt Eberflus, he went up to Chicago as a Dallas assistant coach, and he said that he couldn't feel his feet on the sidelines because it was so cold. So I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
that's a bad one.
Yeah, that's bad. But just the fact that these guys go out there and they play in this weather, and then let's not forget the fans that are out there. They're just as much
Right.
as part of that outdoor environment. So those fans, make sure you bundle up. I think you're going to see an exciting game, and I think where you're going to get your money's worth paying to go watch a 10-degree below freezing game is in the quarterbacks that are coming to play the Sunday, which is Josh Allen
Absolutely.
and Justin Fields. And I know there was a sound bite that came out that's gotten a lot of notoriety on Twitter, where a reporter asked Justin if he watches any of Josh Allen's game tape, and he just flat out answered sincerely, he said, "No, I don't." All right, and I think that got a little bit of flack with some of the online warriors. But at the end of the day, you have two good quarterbacks going head to head. I think the distinctive, you can put your hand on this and say this is a key differentiator here, is the supporting cast, right? Josh Allen has, his supporting cast, obviously highlighted by Stephon Diggs, as his primary option or weapon, I should say, and Justin Fields' primary option being Equanimous St. Brown. I think it's going to be similar to my prediction with the Eagles, right? Where you have this team, they're just in different maturity steps towards being contenders. And I think that not Philly. I think that Buffalo comes in and gets the win in Chicago and puts the Bears one step closer to that top draft pick. And my prediction for this one would probably be maybe giving the defense credit for that performance with Philly, but I think that again that the Buffalo Bills will eclipse that 30-point mark. So my prediction will be a 31-21 matchup.
I think that's a fair prediction, and I'll say, like, I still feel the same. It's like, who's going to stop them? Now, this defense did something against that offense in Philly. You got to give them credit for that. One thing I'm going to stop doing is overlooking the Bears' offensive ability to shorten games. And I think Justin Fields he's been a huge part of that. You know, when a first down is needed, he can get it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what that does. Is it shortens the game. It keeps ball in your hands, keeps Josh Allen on the sidelines, keeps, Jalen Hurts on the sidelines. And protects that defense a little bit. So I think that is what they'll continue to try to do. Just get those knockdown, drag out offensive drives, and they do put together. I think again, I'll go a little bit more points than you on this one. I think that they'll find a way to get 27 points. But yeah, Josh Allen and that offense is too much when they are going to be on the field against the Bears defense. I think they're going to be able to get the job done. So I'll go. I'm gonna go 35-27.
Oh, nice! You got some scoring. So I'll say this: if there's a betting line out there, here are my bets. Cairo Santos misses an extra point. Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker continue a strong performance. Remember, these are both guys that came off of a concussion list last week to return to game action after a couple weeks. And Kyler Gordon had 2 interceptions quietly, right? Not a lot of people talking about that. So Kyler Gordon, keep an eye out for him. I think that they keep that streak. I think that Jaquan Brisker recovers a fumble in this game. And why I say this, Miles, is obviously you playing at Oshkosh and up in Wisconsin. When it's cold and you get hit, it feels a little different than when it's 80 degrees and you get hit. There's not a whole lot of warmth there in absorbing the hit, and I think that will result in some balls being loose. And I think this is going to be playing defense, but I just think it's going to be one of those games that's fun to watch. A couple takeaways, a couple miscues that will be solely because of the environment and the cold weather. That I think is going to be fun. Maybe we get a little bit of a snowfall. We'll see. That to me is one of the most beautiful things of the sport of football. Is it's one of the only sports that you get to see snow in. And again, hoping everybody has a very special holiday with their loved ones. Players, families, coaches, etc., and our listeners. Miles, I just wanted to send a very warm OG holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays from me and Miles out there to the ether.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, whatever holidays you are celebrating, I hope you enjoy it and enjoy the time with your loved ones. And that's the most important thing is, we fight and work and do all these things on a day-to-day basis, and what's it all for? It's so that we can spend time with each other and enjoy that in a lot of different ways and build memories and create, new stories to tell. Right. So, I definitely hope that all of you will do that. We are definitely going to be celebrating Christmas over here, enjoying that with these kids running around. Man, there's just to me, there's nothing like being able to create the magic of Christmas for these kids. The way I experienced it, it was very special. I think it's kind of fun to watch it now for the next generation and see your parents become grandparents and things like that. We can't take any of this for granted. So. definitely extend those same thoughts. I hope you all will enjoy
Yeah.
that, and
Don't forget
maybe we'll
to
get to be part of it. If you guys are bored because
exactly
nobody
spike
else is
that
creating
like button,
content
leave
right
us a
now,
comment,
just go ahead and give us a
subscribe. That's
listen. We're right
obviously what
here.
we want you to do.
Come
We
hang
also
out
want
and get a little
you to
banter
be
in.
kind to one another, to be patient with one another, to be empathetic with one another. And Miles, I think our podcast, which I always say is the people's podcast, embodies and proves that you don't have to agree with someone to really be able to enjoy all of the ideas, camaraderie, friendship, and that is something that I think you and I can project out into this world that doesn't have a whole lot of it, right? And why I say that is because you're a Packer fan, I'm a Bears fan. We have a bitter rivalry, and yet you are one of my best friends in this whole wide world. So I just want to make sure that we can tell other people that they can do the same.
Love it, man. Absolutely. No, we're. I couldn't have said it better. I think that if there's anything we're trying to accomplish, it's just to show people how to disagree. Right? We can do that in different ways, and
Yeah, log off Twitter
there's
for
healthy ways to do it.
yeah,
There's
no kidding.
the Twitter way to do it, which is not healthy. Don't do it on Twitter. Don't debate people on Twitter, especially bots. It's not good for your health.
Okay,
Get off
great.
Twitter. Put it down. I did the same thing. I pulled that thing off my phone. I only can get on Twitter on the computer. No, but seriously, I love it, man. I appreciate your perspective on all of that, and totally agree with it and echo it. And hopefully, we've got many, many more of these episodes to show people how we disagree on things, and do it in a fun
Yeah,
way.
I remember we were very excited for
But
episode 10.
certainly
This is
happy
episode
to
20.
and grateful to
And,
have had episode number
obviously
20, man.
appreciate
Can you
everyone
believe it?
that's on this journey with us. I'm going to sign off, Miles, with a
Yeah.
bear down and a happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody. Yes.
Hey, enjoy it, Griswold, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and go, Pack, go.